And now, the Big D and Bubba Weekly Podcast.
Big D and Bubba, they have a show 5 days a week, but they don't get to say everything that's on their mind, so they have an extra one, and that's how we get the podcast, the podcast, the podcast.
Podcast.
Big D and Bubba's podcast, the podcast, the podcast. Big D and Bubba's podcast.
We got a problem with Silverfish.
Oh, that's a...
I know. It's a great gold. I will explain that one here in a moment. First of all, here we are, episode 399. Most podcasts in America do not, actually worldwide, do not get past episode 10. Here we are at episode 399, and we've got a little surprise for those, a little treat for those of you who are here with us on the audio version. If you're listening to it on a podcast app, we have a little Big Town interview. Super crazy story about Kimberly in concert right before Stevie Nicks. Just crazy. That'll be at the end after the closing jingle. Stick around for that. As we're coming to you from the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio. O'Reilly Auto Parts, your professional parts people. If you love music, got to tell you again, you got to get the Pickle Jar app. Pickle Jar is so cool because it's an app that allows you to tip. And I know you go, yeah, I can do that. I got all these other apps. No, it's different because this is like custom made for the artist. If you give $10 to a band, let's say you're tipping in a bar, that $10, all of that $10 goes to the band, the artist, that person. So it's not like it's, they're only getting a fraction of it and all that kind of stuff. So Pickle Jar is pretty cool. It supports great causes in your hometown as well. So wherever you are, wherever you're living, you can do cool things and fundraise through there. Plus, you can watch exclusive content that you can't find anywhere else. So download today for your Apple or your Droid at picklejar.com. $399, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot, man.
We got a problem with Silverfish.
That was...
Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's Bubba's... This is your first candid phone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Prank phone call?
So, yeah, we used to do a lot of... That's basically all we did back in the day was candid phones is, like prank calls where, you just call people and people would call up and go, hey, my brother works at blah, blah, blah. Can you call him and say, blah? Yeah, okay, cool. And we would do that. And I forgot what it was. Somebody was a pest control person or whatever. And... it was my first one I'd ever done, and that was what I was doing. I'm saying we had a problem with Silverfish.
We got a problem with Silverfish.
And then whenever we formed our company, we had to speak about it in public around people that we were going to not be working with. Mm-hmm. So we kept referring. We were like, what are we going to call the company so we can openly talk about it? We need like a project something or other. And we ended up, it was Project Silverfish because we're like, that's the dumbest thing ever. Nobody will ever put two and two together that we're making a company. And then we ended up naming the company Silverfish. But it ended up having multiple meanings because the Silverfish referred to the first candid that I did, the first prank call I did with Big D. But it was like the craziest thing. During that year that we were trying to form our company, during that time that we were trying to really have a new beginning and try to figure out how to make this whole thing work, we were like relying heavy on prayer. And the little silver fish that you see on people's trunk of their car? Mm-hmm. And it's the little Jesus fish.
Jesus fish.
So it kind of was like we ended up taking those. We're like, hey, silverfish. So we put those up in the studio on each side and actually mounted them to the furniture. It was great. I'm hoping they're still there at that other place. But we ended up, Silverfish took on its whole little name, and then we're like, let's just name the company Silverfish.
And here we are.
And
Nice.
here we are.
Nice.
I did get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was funny because you, the best part of that is you, when you called, he put a plastic cup where you have pins and stuff in, and he took it and he would shake it.
Listen to the Silverfish.
You can hear him in the wall, and he put it in and he was going, and she goes, oh my.
Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Oh my.
That's terrible.
Yeah, anyway.
We'll have to pull that one out of the archives one day and play it on the air.
The thing with prank phone calls, it had its run for a while, and then it just kind of, like, people change. The audience kind of changes.
It's not that they changed. It's just people get sue happy nowadays. And that's what happened is now when you hear a prank call on any other show but ours, because I will tell you this, ours are real. Theirs are all fake. And it's the same thing like with the War of the Roses and all that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, who's going to get the roses?
Second date update.
Yeah, all that stuff. That's all fake.
Uh-huh.
And it's all like these services that have actors and actresses that play the parts. And we never did
Do
that.
people are they still doing that?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm in a radio group on Facebook, and there's always a battle about it. It pops up every 4 to 5 months where you have people like me who think War of the Roses is stupid. And then you have the people that are like, no, it's still a good bit. The audience loves it. And yeah, so it just becomes contentious. And
Was it Kid who did that first? D?
What part first?
The War of the Roses thing. Wasn't he the one?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so. Because that was an actual bit.
Right. He did it like for real.
For real, yeah. yeah, because I stole it one time. Because I was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, when stuff is real, great. But it got to the point where obviously people have taken it, and like you said, there are these services that provide it, and there's some of us who I think the way that we work, and I go, we're all friends. We sit in a studio, and look, if we have a telemarketer call, have fun with them, right? Because that's 100% legit. But when you're faking it this much, like, man, do you honestly think people can't tell?
Oh, to me, it's so obvious.
It's really obvious, but a lot of people don't get it. It's the same thing like if you remember the deer crossing prank call that went around several years back on YouTube and all that. Do you remember the deer crossing? Okay, so it's somebody calling like the highway department, and they're mad because they put up a deer crossing sign. People keep hitting deer. And it's all because you put the sign here, because the deer know to cross the road right here. I'm so angry. Yeah, why wouldn't you put that in a lesser used road? It's like,
I mean, it's a fine joke to do as a one-time throwaway kind of deal, and kind of
right.
But man, and it just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah,
it's just, and it's so dumb.
When I was a kid, one radio station I listened to did this. It's a little PG-13, but basically they would have a wife call the husband at work and convince him to come home for lunch.
Oh, I remember those.
And it took me until I was, this age to go, oh my gosh, those were all fake. But the problem was I was like 8 in the car.
Yeah.
So I totally believed in it. And looking back going, really? Like, come on, man.
Those.
Yeah, that was, and I guess maybe it was entertaining for people that were listening. As a kid, most of it went over my head, but.
Oh, don't think we haven't faked anything, though. We have.
Yeah.
We'll tell you. We have absolutely faked stuff. We did this thing where we were doing more power for Sue and Dave, and we climbed the radio tower or something like that to crank up our wattage.
Yeah, but that was
faked all
it was.
That. I know,
but it was obviously fake. Like it was.
Yeah, I know, but
like
I don't want anybody.
You fell 300 feet and then landed, and then
in hay.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, we're making this, so we're making it, and so yeah, it's. I'm like, the scene goes, it's at night, and Bubba wants to climb up the tower and increase the power. We're not supposed to do this. I'm over there going, Bubba, don't do this. Don't. And he's like from a distance going, and that it was redneck Bubba then, and it was like, no, man, hey, they want more power, we're going to give more power.
No, the line is, Sue and Dave
want more power. Sue and Dave get more power. And then he's doing this, and then he falls. And dude, I can still see you in that production room with that gigantic. Remember that it was like a board for like concerts.
Yeah, it was
enormous.
a music live venue concert production board.
Oh, wow.
It went from here to like
Yeah.
It was like 12 feet
Dude,
wide.
It was crazy. Like you had to stand up if you wanted to like you couldn't.
It was 119 channels.
It was
Wow.
insane.
I mean, like you look at my board here. I have like 15 we call them pot sliders. Yeah. This thing was like 100 and something. And man,
so anyway, and he's making this, and I remember you going to do the
sound of the fall.
sound of him falling. He needed his voice to, even though voice is mono, he still created the illusion by by going, ah, and he kind of fell like with the mic, and it sounded great. And then
I
there's
also
that
did
thud.
stereo panning too.
Yep. You
I was
did.
like, ah,
Yeah,
so
and you
hear
can
it
hear
like-
it.
Yeah. That's awesome though.
And then
So dumb.
And then at the end we're like, yo, you know what we need is there should be like a dog or a cow moo, like it's completely
Yeah,
silent.
you hear the boom, hitting
We stand- and it's quiet. And you hear the crickets. And then you hear.
Oh.
See, I still love that kind of stuff though. When it comes to radio, I love when there's production and there's thought, which to me, I get it. You're faking it. You didn't jump off a tower.
Yeah, but everyone. I was obviously we didn't. Yeah.
Right, I still think that's so much more fun than just second date update. We're gonna get him on the phone. There's no effort in that.
No, and
I
the way
love
it works.
the creativity, and that is not it.
Well, back in our day, before the second date update and the War of the Roses and
Yeah.
all, it was the Barney Fife stuff. Remember that?
God, the knocking on the door.
They'd be like,
opening up the door.
"Oh, Barney's here! Come on in! Hey, it's me!" And you hear like the feet clopping, and then he's like, "Hey!" and comes in and he says one quick joke. All right, see you later, bye. And you hear the door slam behind him, and that's what radio was doing.
I
back
used to
in the
have
day.
to do that as part of the NBC tour. That we would bring you into a room at the beginning of the tour and you'd watch this 6-minute video talking to you about how NBC started with radio and went into television and look at the color and whatever. But leading into the video, we're restarted in radio. Let's play some sound effects for you. And we'd get out all sorts of little gizmos. And one of them was, it looked like it was 2 pieces of wood that smacked together. And we're like, does anybody know what that sound is? Let me add a little bit more mood for you. And then we'd have a crowd exploding. And the whole point was, it was a baseball bat. It's the crack of a bat. And people paid $45 for this. And I'm very sorry.
Well, Foley artists, that's a thing. And back in the old days of radio, they would have usually 1 or 2 guys who were sitting on the side, and while they were doing a radio play, it would say thunder cracks, and you'd have them with a sheet of metal going,
Yeah.
and just shaking it around or whatever.
Did you ever watch the movie Radio Days? It's a Woody Allen movie, which I understand
I
right
think
there
that's why
could
I
turn
didn't
you
watch
up.
it.
It's fair. I've watched it since I was a kid before we knew he was a creep. But it's still one of my favorite movies, and it's all about his love for radio in the 1930s. And it goes back and forth between him being a kid in Rockaway in New York and being in Manhattan. And you see how these radio shows are made. So there's so much with the Foley artists and the voice artists. And it's fascinating from that point of view, looking at the time period, even though, yes, it's Woody Allen, I understand. But it talks a lot about the creative process and the theater of the mind, which I
His
adored.
movies are just, they drone for me.
This-
I've tried to watch a couple of them.
This one is unlike the rest of his. It's vignettes. It's straight up vignettes from the 1930s, the very early 40s,
so it
I guess.
doesn't
'Cause
drag on?
No, it's a bunch of very quick stories. Some are about his family in Brooklyn. Some of it is, again, the radio shows that it's legends that he heard as a kid about. At the time, radio people were their celebrities, that they were larger than life. And he had collected radio stories and he brought them to the screen. So there's one about a woman who gets stuck on the roof of what's supposed to be like the Copacabana, a very fancy social club. And the fallout of, it turns out she's having an affair with a guy and the wife finds out. But it's celebrity
War of the Roses.
gossip. But it's celebrity gossip from back then, and it's all played out. And then it's, his family listening to the radio. He talks about his aunt who is obsessed with a ventriloquist on the radio, and it drove his uncle crazy because it's the radio.
Oh, that's Big D.
Yeah.
That is Big D. Big D despises when we have ventriloquists on the radio.
So dumb.
I mean, I love it. I man, you know me. I'm a huge Jeff Dunham fan.
Right.
I like all those guys. And Jeff will come in here into the studio and he'll bring Walter and everybody. And Dee's like, why do you bring them in here? Nobody's watching you. You could just say the voices. And he's like, no, I have to do it. That's their joke.
Wow.
Great, but
you just
that's
made my point for me.
No, it's interesting because
I have to. It's their joke.
those characters can say the joke.
It's the adult's joke, so you have to have the
Those-
adult. What?
Those characters can say the joke because
All right.
nowadays, especially, that's such a safety net. I didn't say the joke. The puppet did.
But he's sitting
Okay,
next
now-
to us on the radio. Like, if we can tell people, oh, the puppet's here.
Also, try that in court. I didn't say it. Earl here said it. What's the old man's name again?
Walter.
Walter did it. He said it. Well, okay. No,
Dude, there's something to it, man.
Yeah, I mean it's great on stage, and you're going to do that, but
Right, but
just,
it's
I mean,
the
just
radio.
It's fine. And it doesn't really bother me. I get it. It's just funny to poke, fun of them, whatever. Did you see that they are? We were talking about this off the air, but the line just to see the casket of the Queen is 5 miles
5
long.
miles.
Did you see the one of the guards fell out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like passed out,
Yeah.
like face planted.
Yeah, well, he's broke that nose for sure. Yeah, I guess standing that long, your legs, the blood pools down low and it gets out of your head, leaves your
Well, they
head.
always say don't lock your knees.
Yeah, he was
Somebody
out.
locked his knees.
I mean, they were doing it's 24 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I think some people said they waited up to 30.
But I mean,
And-
it's open 24 hours.
Oh,
though.
open. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it's a continuous whatever 4 times 24 is because they're doing it for 4
Y'all
days.
Think, y'all think she's in there?
I wondered about that.
because it's closed, right?
Yeah.
Theater of the mind.
Yeah.
It's a casket with a flag on
It's
top.
basically War of the Roses.
I would think no. I don't think it is. I don't think she's in there currently. I think whenever it's time to actually bury the body, that will be.
You know why, too? They're very careful. Every news outlet is talking about people lining up to see the casket, to see the coffin. And I understand we're not seeing the Queen because it's not open. But the fact that they keep using those words over and over instead of just saying, "Oh, you're going to see the Queen."
Okay, and
Oh,
I'll
you
tell
think they know? I don't think they know.
I just think
No,
that
but I
might
think they're
be
being careful with it.
Yeah,
That might be the official wordage
Right.
that was given to them by.
that it was passed down from the family, from the official press
Because
releases.
I've had nightmares. I mean, I've had to carry caskets a couple times, and it's horrible because the pressure is on you of don't drop it, don't let it slip, whatever. And I'm going to say something right now to casket manufacturers. Stop it with the shiny, slick wood. Holy crud. I had to do a funeral in the heat of the summer with shiny, slick wood, so you're sweating up a storm, and
it's sliding out of your
it's
hands.
sliding out of your hands, and you're just like, man. And then the panic sets in, so you start to sweat even more.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys think the body is?
I think it's still in Scotland, or it was,
Oh.
or it
Oh, I
had
think it
left
came
Scotland
back.
immediately, like at night, and they, never had her there.
Yeah, I
after
think
that
it's in
point.
England for sure.
And
but-
also, let's just think about okay, so the body's going to decompose.
Right.
You're not going to for 10 days. It's on ice. It's
Yeah,
cooled
yeah.
and being in a safe place in a medical facility.
Back in the old days, they would do that though, like because they have their process, the 10-day thing. So think about, let's say in the 1600s, they would leave that body out in state
yeah.
for
Very-
almost 2 weeks.
very
Right, but-
famous. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, but again, you're talking 1600s. People smelled. That was a whole different odor happening on the planet.
Imagine
So-
how bad Henry VIII must have smelled.
Yeah.
Because everybody talked about how bad he smelled because he
Right.
had that leg injury that was festering. So imagine how bad that dude stunk.
Right, but
if
there
in
are
the
people
1500s
who-
people are going, you
It is.
stink.
I just look at people who, maybe if they were lucky, they got to bathe in used bathwater once every 2 weeks. I think they had a whole different capacity
Or month.
for odors.
Very famous story of Abraham Lincoln, and when he was being shown around the country, he had a tour on train, and so people would come by and see the body, and they talked about how by the so many days into it, like his nose was falling off, and
Ooh, yeah.
and there's only one picture of it, and you can see him, and it looks like he's decomposing right there in front, and people would still come by, and they would have to cover their mouths because it was so grotesque and
wow.
smelly, and
Oof.
and then yeah, pretty crazy.
I'm looking that up. I want to.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln
Yeah, train.
death train picture. Wow. See if that pulls up. Yeah, there's I think there's just one picture taken, and it was discovered not too long ago in some archives. And people are like, "Oh, wait a second."
Yeah, the pictures I'm seeing are of the train itself, or they're cartoons.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm on a web page, and it's the Adventures of Abraham Lincoln's Corpse.
Wow.
The Adventures.
The Adventures.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really want to see it that bad, but it's just crazy. Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln's body to the public. Here, I'm on it now. And then, do you know they went and exhumed him?
Really? No.
They
why?
moved him because, they were having, again, because he was polarizing at the time. Abraham Lincoln was the Donald Trump of his time. He was loved and hated. There was nobody in the middle on Abraham Lincoln. So people were vandalizing. There were vandals at his, weren't they trying to take the body? Like they were trying to steal his body.
Yeah, right. So in 1901, Lincoln's body was exhumed so it could be reinterred in a newly built crypt. However, several of the 23 people present feared that his body might have been stolen in the intervening years, so they decided to open the coffin and check. A harsh choking smell arose and the casket was open. Lincoln was perfectly recognizable more than 30 years after his death. Gold color on his face from unhealed bruises. His face. Yeah. So, oh wow, the gunshot wound shattered the bones in his face and damaged his tissue. His hair, beard, and mole were all perfectly preserved.
Wow.
Although his eyebrows were gone.
Mm.
His suit was covered in a yellow mold, and gloves had rotted on his hands. On his chest, you could see some bits of red fabric, remnants of the American flag, which he was buried with, which had then disintegrated. Wasn't that fun? You guys like that?
I was watching a clip a few weeks ago. That old show from, I think it was like the 50s, To Tell the Truth or something like that, or I've Got a Secret. And there was a guy on who had been present at Lincoln's assassination. He was 8 years old. And something about he didn't call it a babysitter because that wasn't the word back then.
Mm-hmm.
But basically his babysitter had taken him to the play for the night. It was him and I want to say a sibling. And he remembers seeing John Wilkes Booth jump, but he didn't quite understand. It's a kid. He's in the theater. He just knew that he sees this guy make this massive leap and he thinks it's part of the play. And then all chaos just breaks loose. And here he is all these years later, and the guy's like 90 something at that point. But it was so weird to think that even in the 50s, somebody who was witness to one of the biggest moments in our history was still alive.
Well, think about, we have people that are still alive right now that were in the middle of World War II. And when you when you go back and watch those old World War II documentary videos and things like that, you realize exactly how much has changed in the world. I mean, we were barely any better in the 40s than we were in the 20s, and to think of, that's almost, 80 years ago? Something like that? Yeah. So that's crazy. Also, on the Abraham Lincoln thing, I would like to send a shout out to whoever wrote the book, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. The movie is one of my favorite movies, and I wish that they would make a movie out of the sequel, because the sequel book is 10 times better than the original. And I never, ever, ever would say that about a book if it wasn't true. I'm telling you, Abraham Lincoln, I forget what the name of the second book is, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the second one, just incredible.
Do you guys know about Lincoln's pillow? The pillow from Willie Clark's bed at the Peterson house. That's where they took him after the assassination, and the doctors were working on him. He was unconscious, and they tried to make him comfortable. They laid him. He's too tall for the bed because he's really tall, and they laid him diagonally across it, and they covered his legs and feet with hot blankets, and then cushioned his head with pillows. But they kept his wound open throughout the night, pulling out blood clots to relieve the pressure on his brain. And so this pillow is now bloodstained with President Lincoln's blood on it. So
where's it at? They still have it?
Yeah, it's on this. Where is this? It's so it's a Ford's Theater. It's it's in Washington D.C. as a museum, and you can go and see it there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been in front of Ford's Theater. I've never actually been inside. And I heard it's really cool because it's basically exactly the way it was that day.
Oh, wow. So when he died, Willie Clark, so that's his house, he wrote to his sister, quote, "The same mattress on my bed, the same cover covers me nightly that covered President Lincoln while he died." So they kept using the same blanket?
Nobody could get this man a different blanket.
What?
He was the president.
Yeah, that's fine. You want to keep it, but I don't need to wrap myself in.
They're still...
Ugh.
Wow.
Ugh.
Yeah, get you a new
Oh,
blanket.
wait,
there,
you're
Will.
saying the person? I was reading all this other stuff and I
Yeah.
was looking at pictures.
No, the guy's house.
He was
they had
still
him in his bed.
sleeping with the blanket?
Yeah, the blanket
Yes.
that was covered up Lincoln. And, he died. He died, and so he kept the blanket, and he's still using it. What the heck?
Man, that is some straight up,
Willie's hardcore.
right? Like,
Still using it. Yeah, I'm going to use a good blanket.
that is,
That's like our dads. That's a good blanket.
wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's nuts, man.
Have you seen the guy that was trying to peddle the picture that he claimed was a picture of Lincoln on his deathbed? And it was this whole thing. I might have watched a 2-hour documentary about it, but he claimed it was that it was somehow a photographer managed to sneak in the room while Lincoln was dying at some point overnight. And he's trying to say it's authentic. He's looking for millions of dollars, and every expert came out and said, no, there's no way the president of the United States, who's dying from a gunshot wound to the head, was ever left unattended. So somebody could come in and set up a camera,
Which back then they took
would take
forever.
10 minutes to snap. Like, how really? And people are going, I guess they think he just did it to make a documentary, because they said there's no way this guy could ever think that A, it would be legitimate, and B, anybody would ever pay.
People
because
are
it's not.
stupid. I actually am going to side on people are stupid, and they thought, I bet I could get away with this.
I mean,
like
if you
War
were
of the
selling it
Roses.
for like $30 maybe, but this guy's looking for millions. Of course it's going to be.
Yeah, I've been checking out all these. There's a bunch of fake photos of him in the caskets.
Yeah.
These are
Did you ever
wild.
see that, Patrick, where his body, he was on that tour, the train tour,
Yeah,
and his face was like his
I've
body.
heard that. I've also heard that that's fake. So
They actually found a real, in the archives, they found a picture. There's only one.
I'm here to correct a few things.
Oh, no. Patrick, he's not been here, and then all of
but
a
I was
sudden walked
listening.
in.
And let's see. The only thing you got wrong about Silverfish is that it was Operation Silverfish
We got a problem with Silverfish.
that we started talking about in the hallways of our
not
old
Project.
job.
Okay.
Yes, Operation
How are you?
Silverfish.
Oh, it's live. I'm an idiot. Okay.
Yeah, it's live on
I was
YouTube.
like, how are you doing that? How did you know that?
Is this
It's
how
the
live
magic of
streaming
live
works?
streaming.
Yeah.
Is this the YouTube?
How do you Googlish?
And I'm the one who said, well, I feel like we should name the company Silverfish. And the first reaction was, oh, gosh, no. And then it was like immediately, well, because
Yeah.
you know what? We were so used to calling it that. We'd been calling it Silverfish at that point.
I love that you came in to take credit.
Oh yeah. That's
Oh,
all
it's
he-
not, no, just for that part. But I think I actually also came up with
Thank
Project
you.
Silverfish, too.
How many laws did you
I
break?
love how, by
trying
the way,
to get
he
here
told,
as fast as you could.
he
got to
told the
get there.
story and didn't mention me at all, like I wasn't even there. So
Look at the cops are
glad
outside
to
waiting
see-
for you.
Well, what am I supposed? I didn't mention Big D either.
Yes, you did.
I said we. I never said Big D
Also,
by name.
though, the real reason I wanted to interject
I'm sorry, Patrick
is not
was
because
there,
of that.
everybody.
Yeah, it's not because of that. The
Good
real
job.
reason I wanted to interject is
Great.
because the three of you, not one of you thought to, no one thought to say, why? Why would the Queen's body not be in the coffin? What do they have
Because
to
they don't. I'll
gain
tell you exactly
by having
why.
it not be in
I
there?
was going back to the slippery handles. They do not want an accident where they accidentally dump the body. It would be
ain't
the
getting
worst
dumped, man.
travesty. I know, but it would be the worst travesty ever if they were to accidentally slip and something were to happen to that casket and the body were to come
You
out.
think
10
that
days.
casket's going to open?
No,
No,
that's
it's
not the
not.
reason. He's just doing that because he had that experience one
Yeah.
time. They're wearing gloves and all that.
So,
stuff.
dude, that's
It's, and it's
crazy.
military precision. These guys have trained their whole lives for this.
It's a rotting body.
No, they embalm it. That body's been embalmed
It's
for
Schrodinger's
days.
queen.
Yeah.
Dudes,
Schrodinger's queen.
bodies are heavy. Casket, actually, let me go back.
Oh my god.
Caskets
so now
are
we're back
heavy.
to okay. So I'm gonna go with I think the queen's body is in the coffin
I don't
like
think
they
so.
say it is.
I don't
I don't think
I
so.
don't either.
Yeah.
I just don't see why. What would the benefit be?
What's
of
the benefit of having it in there?
Yeah.
I don't know because
It's
they
all
say
for
it's in
show
there.
All for
anyway.
show,
Yeah.
man.
It is all for show.
Theater of the mind.
That's what they're doing.
Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't
Also,
make
War of the Roses sucks. Just want to bring that back up, just in case anyone actually thinks that is funny or legitimate. It's terrible.
You know, the thing is, we have good friends in radio that are really popular. They're syndicated, not in our format, but and I'm like, wow, y'all do. And their
still
whole thing
doing
is, like we kind of keep it real, and I'm like, no, you
No,
don't.
you don't.
Because you do
That's
this
and
fake
it's
stuff.
and it's old. It's an old bit. It's no. I mean, listen,
I don't even mind.
We do dumb stuff, and you know we do, and other radio people can get onto us for that. We do tasty tweets. It's dumb. It has a little song. That's pretty much all why we do it, because
of the song.
because the
People
jingle.
like it. 'cause
No,
of the
we
song.
did it because Becky asked us to. Becky
But
was like,
also, the reason you keep doing it too is it's you guys reading jokes. That's all the tasty tweets are.
And it changes every day.
It's jokes. It changes every day.
And we do it one time.
I will say this. I hate that Tasty Tweets happens at the same time every day.
But
Yeah,
that's
but
part of the thing that
that's
people
What
like
they
about
want
it.
it. I know. But and there's so many people who tell us all the time, oh, I know if I'm late or if I'm early for work by when I hear the Tasty Tweets.
I had people texting today like, because we moved the Friday song. We don't play it the same time every Friday.
We don't, no.
And they were like, "Hey, I'm missing it. And, where is it?" And I'm like, "Well, it floats. It's not the same time." And we like that because it's not predictable, but also you need some of that predictableness.
Well, people like what they like. They like what they know. And I don't
Listen, we're not doing the same bit every hour for this, the entire show. We're not.
Tell me something about me.
Tell me something made of wood, and when the next hour we'll have Carson tell us something that's made of wood, and then Patrick, you
This
can tell
toy
us.
boat
Lincoln's
from the
casket.
1800s is made of wood. It is.
Those bars on caskets, and they're slippery.
And they're slippery wood.
made of
but
wood.
it's still wood.
Thanks.
Washington's teeth.
Made
out of
oxen.
wood.
Tell me something
Actually,
made of wood.
I don't think his teeth were made of wood. If I'm not mistaken, Washington's teeth were made of
Oh
teeth.
my God. Bubba just went right.
I know, I did. I'm
trucked
trying
right
to
over.
be.
Oh, I know.
actually
This is
says-
what we do.
Good for you. Good
This
for
is
you.
what we do.
It actually does sing.
The
It's a
name
little
again
rushed.
is Mr. Plow.
No, but I don't think Washington's teeth were made of wood.
No,
I
they
think
weren't.
they
I
were-
was going
they were
with the
other
old
people's
story.
teeth.
Yes. It was made of other people's teeth.
Oh, I didn't need that information.
Possibly some horse teeth or goat teeth in there.
What? Oh my gosh! This is the worst revelation ever.
This
I
has
don't
been
know.
pretty disgusting podcast.
This whole thing. And
Glad
never
I showed
once,
up at the end so I could participate just a
once
little bit.
did I mention poop. Because Patrick was so used to, for years.
This was the podcast.
Okay, look, the myth of George Washington's, I've got the theme, it's presidential. The myth of George Washington's wooden chompers is endearing but false. Washington had multiple sets of dentures. They were made of ivory, metal alloys, and most disturbingly, the teeth of other humans.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Look at that grill.
That's nice.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
I guess
Hey,
that's...
man.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Say,
Say,
man. I do. I watch a TikTok because the guy, he's like, I can't play because he cusses. Like, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you tell your story. I'll come back.
No, it's all right.
No, Captain Interruption over
Oh,
here.
my
What
God.
was
No,
that?
I'm reading something. What people would do, poor people would sell their teeth to rich people to make dentures out of them.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Dude.
assumed they took them from dead people, but okay.
No, there were people, that's what they would do. Now, you got them cheaper if it was from a dead person, but they were in better
a bargain,
condition.
of
I don't
course. Dead people's teeth. Like, who doesn't need some of that? You know?
That's right.
Oh.
That's right.
That's right.
So let's go back to Lincoln in the casket. What a weird podcast. D, I'm sorry. I would
Justice
like
for
to hear
Mary
your story.
Surratt.
What?
Justice for Mary Surratt.
Yeah, she was hanged as one of the conspirators, but there's really no proof that she actually had anything to do with this assassination.
Well,
Oh,
She
is
was
that
the
the lady
first
who-
woman that was killed.
Is that the lady who was at the farmhouse or
Yep.
whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
well, and they sentenced Dr. Mudd
Yeah,
to
poor Mud.
He was in prison for years.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Samuel Mudd, they showed up at his house, the conspirators, including Booth, showed up at his house, and Booth had broken his leg when he jumped down to the stage.
Yeah.
So Dr. Mudd, he was a doctor. This guy he set his leg. Like, that's what he did. That's what you do. You're a doctor, there's a sick person, you help him. And they got him as part of the conspiracy.
Yep.
He went to jail. He was supposed to go to jail for life. He was eventually pardoned because there was like a cholera outbreak or yellow fever or something at the prison. And because he was a doctor, he helped save a bunch of people's lives.
Did he know that
they let him?
Did he know who Booth was?
No.
No.
There's no record that he had anything to do with the conspiracy. They just stopped at his house along the way, and he helped them because they needed help. He didn't
know what had happened.
And also, that's where the phrase "your name is Mud" came from.
My name is Mud.
Y'all stop.
No, for real.
No,
When they say your name is
absolutely.
Mud, like, you've just slandered yourself. You've ruined yourself.
Yeah. And I believe the conspiracy, they stayed at Mary Surratt's boarding house, and there really wasn't any indication that she knew what these guys were doing other than offering them a place to room, because that's what you did back then. But she was hanged, and I think she was the first woman executed in America.
Did you know boarding houses were made of boards, which are made of wood?
Tell me something made of wood.
Yes.
All right, next hour.
Now, next up, hey Garrett, can you name something made of wood? We got to get everybody involved because we can't just have one or two of these.
And then when we do
We
the
need
promotion,
the laundry list of people.
Yes.
the
Just
promotion.
keep reading names.
Well, during the day, we'll tell you that we're going to do it.
Oh yeah.
So
Coming
I mean,
up.
it gets
Coming up in another 55 minutes, we're going to tell you one more thing that's made of wood.
I've knocked on this counter, which
6
is
minutes past the hour, 54 minutes until we hit 8 o'clock. Tell me something.
made of wood. Well, this has been great. Thank you.
I got a problem with Silverfish.
Yeah.
So we got a little Big Town that we're going to play for you. An interview.
It's a really
No,
fun
we really
interview.
are. We really are.
If you missed them on the show, they're amazing. And
Speaking of people with missing teeth.
oh yes,
There may be a
yes,
story
it's
about that.
crazy the things you're going to find out about one of your favorite bands. Coming up next. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Don't forget, like, subscribe, rate, give us all the best reviews on the planet, and spread the word. Share
Tell
us
your
to all your
friends.
friends. Yay!
Yeah.
Social media, do whatever you got to do.
This was the
podcast,
but now it's over. That's okay.
For the best.
'cause you can listen to the regular show
Toothpicks.
on the radio
Toothpicks made of wood.
every
Yes, they are.
day. It was the podcast. Those